G'day, it's James again and welcome back to PTSD Recovery TV. I just had an email from someone who was asking about how I recovered in respect to medication. Now I've got to qualify everything I say here. I am not a qualified psychiatrist. I do not deal in medication with post-traumatic recovery, post-traumatic stress recovery, and my programs don't deal at all in medication. So that disclaimer aside, in my recovery I didn't use medication. I identified the problem and with assistance identified the problem, and I dealt with that, and my methods were very much emotional release. I've talked to you previously about how trauma is within the right hand hemisphere of the brain. We have an emotional picture, which is our image of the five senses: our sight, taste, touch, smell and hearing, and within that we have then that image attaches with emotion. Now, our traumatic image is very much attached with very negative, contracting, painful emotions that we associate with. So recovery requires the emotion to be released, because emotion will build up in your system very much like a bucket or a reservoir within you, and it's just waiting to spill over. Now, we have 5 of these reservoirs of emotion within us, of so-called negative emotion. I've talked about labeling emotions before, but the 5 reservoirs we have are anger, sadness, fear, guilt and shame. Those emotions will, when an incident occurs or something happens and we make a decision about ourselves in that incident, we'll feel that emotion and those buckets will fill up. Now, if we reframe, if we change the way we perceive that situation or our behaviour or the decision we made about ourselves in that situation, then what will happen is that every time we bring that image back up in our memory, every time we recall that image, the emotional bucket won't fill up again, because we will resolve that issue. But then there's the second part, and that is the residue that's already there, that's already in the bucket, that happened during the incident itself. And then every time you replayed it in your mind with those negative aspects or viewpoint on that situation, and if you don't express that emotion, that's when you find yourself really bubbling up in uncontrollable anger, or finding yourself just not being able to get out of bed in the morning because you're so scared about the possible circumstances that things can happen to you. So recovery is a 2-part process. Firstly, releasing the emotion, and then stopping the emotional buckets filling up again by reframing how you view the situation. Now, I've talked a lot with varying specialists from psychologists and psychiatrists about using medication. Their recommendation is that at times some people will require medication because they are in such a state that the only way for them to get from point A to point B or into the next day is to use medication to quieten their systems down in their body. So in that case, medication is a requirement for them. However, in the long term, medication will not get you better. Nor will the psychiatrist, psychologist, counsellor, anyone, including myself. We will not get you better. We can provide tools for you to get yourself better. And that's the big thing. The clearing of the emotion that's attached within those images is a self process. It's done by you. You have all the tools and techniques within yourself to do it. It's just whether or not you actually know how to do that. And that's what a counsellor, a psychiatrist, psychologist or myself do. We just bring these techniques to you, bring them into your conscious mind, get them to do it, and then release it. So use of medication, if you're going to use it for the long haul, well then you're not going to get better. You're simply going to manage your conditions, and you may find that other conditions come on top of the post-traumatic stress, which includes depression, etc. I find a lot of clients have issues with the medication as well. The medication sends them into weird spaces, doing weird things, feeling weird ways. So when you are going on medication, or if you've been told by your psychiatrist, who are the only ones that should be realistically actually prescribing medication, when you're going or you're told to go on it, it is a 2-way process. You have to agree to go on that medication. Okay? Otherwise, what you're doing is you're giving all responsibility and power over the situation over to someone else, and you're totally disempowering yourself. As soon as you disempower yourself with post-traumatic stress or any other mental ailment or condition, then you will not be able to recover. Because you are the person who needs to recover. You're the person who's got to do the work. Now that might sound a bit scary for some people about having to do the work. And in my journey of recovery, I had regression, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back quite regularly. And sometimes it took 3 or 4 steps back. But the big thing is that I kept going, and I got myself into what's called the success routine I keep talking about. And that success routine was every single day doing one thing for myself, no matter how big, no matter how small. And what that did is it built my track record of self-esteem. Because remember, the actual wound of post-traumatic stress is all about being powerless or totally out of control. And if you think about it, that's directly related to your self-esteem and self-confidence. So you know yourself that your self-esteem won't be where it should be for you to live a normal life. So if you can take 1 step at a time and actually build your self-esteem up, then that's the way you're going to also recover. Exercise is a great thing because what it does, exercise brings a chemical called serotonin, the happy drug, it's a naturally occurring thing, into your system. And so people who have depression are often recommended to get out and exercise. It's exactly the same with post-traumatic stress. Get out, have an exercise regime which fits your body, your physique, your mentality, something you can do on a daily basis. So if you can say to yourself, I'm going to do 20 push-ups a day, and that's your criteria, that's part of your regime, then come just before bedtime and you get there and you say, oh, I haven't done my 20 push-ups today, how about I drop down and I just do 1? By doing that 1 push-up, by getting down on your knees and doing that 1 push-up, you're demonstrating to yourself that you have self-worth. You are worth getting down on your knees and doing that 1 push-up. Now my bet is that while you're down there and you're doing that 1 push-up, you'll go to yourself, well, bugger it, why don't I just do the 20 while I'm there? But the big thing is, even if you don't do the 20, you've got down on your knees and you've done 1 thing to promote your self-worth, to tell yourself you're worth it. And that's the big thing in recovery, is building that track record, which goes to building your self-esteem and getting the power back in yourself to go and get control of your life again. I hope it's a bit of a long-winded answer, I suppose, to the question. I hope that's really helped. If there's any more questions or comments, please keep them coming, and I'll do my best to answer them. Remember, you can choose to be happy.